Hey, what's going on there, folks? Good morning, good afternoon. It is the Earthmaster back here on this Saturday. Hope everyone's enjoying their weekend out there. Going to be another hot one out here in California. 110 expected where I live. It is July 22nd, 2023, 11:53 a.m. California time here. 1.7, the latest quake on the globe. In the big island of Hawaii. Let's go ahead and check out real quick, see what's going on out there in the Pacific. Notice a little bit of further earthquake activity here across the Kilauea volcano. That latest quake, though, down here in Pahala, very typical to see swarming here. It's been an ongoing deal since about the 60s and possibly even further than that. But we're looking at the Kilauea volcano showing a couple smaller earthquakes here today after, a little period of quietness. Looks like potentially we'll have to watch this and see if it gets into a little bit of further activity. Let me go to the hazard notification system here and check this out from HVO. They've only been putting out weekly updates since the pause in the eruption on June 19th. It's been paused, no longer erupting since then. So we'll continue to watch that. Also, we can check and monitor the tilt data here at the volcano on the Big Island. We're going to check out the Kilauea volcano and see what the tilt meter looks like here today. We haven't checked it in a little bit, so I want to see what's going on. Let me zoom in here. There's tilt, there's GPS stations, there's seismic graphs out here all over the place, but we're going to check out the tilt, if it's going to be functionable here at Kilauea volcano. Goodness. Looks like that UWE station, the one I normally use, is offline. UWD is functionable but not sending data, so that's unfortunate. Let's see here. What's this one? UWE. Well, this is a little weird one, but at least it looks like there's some activity. This is a GPS from 2 years. The 1 week is not working. 2 years, obviously, we've seen, the eruption come and go. I'm more concerned with over the past week or so, and I'm just not seeing it. I don't know what happened to it. Either way, latest webcam here from the caldera, the HVO observation tower, shows, not a whole lot of activity currently taking place there around the crater. Looks pretty quiet for now. The seismograph stations here, see if any of these are going to work. Goodness, I don't know what's going on up there, but everything's offline. There's one that's working. All right. So this is past 12 hours of earthquake activity around the Kilauea volcano. A handful of earthquakes there. Looks a little bit more active than what it has been, far as during that stage of being paused. So we'll continue to watch this. Check back. This looks like maybe could be some. It looks like volcanic activity there, magma movement. We'll keep an eye on that for sure. We'll keep checking back. Hopefully they can get those stations up and running appropriately. Just nothing's working here. All right, let's move on past this. See what we got for the rest of the earthquake activity around the globe. Alaska region here, pulling up the 2.5 map and above, shows a handful of earthquakes here. Mostly from yesterday, including that 4.1 along the Aleutian Trench. The only one above 2.5 is going to be a 3.4 that kicked up about 5 o'clock this morning. Aside from that, most of that is microquake activity. Pacific Northwest, a little bit of movement, including one earthquake closer upstream here to the Cascadia. That's a 1.6. Now, we have been seeing tremor activity within this area. Tremor not volcanic, but tremor in terms of slow slip events there along the Cascadia subduction zone. Of course, what sits offshore subducts underneath the land or the plate, North American plate here to the east. Get tremor activity down into the trenches here. And it's been an ongoing little deal here for a couple days in this region. And it looks like that's triggering a little bit of stress further upstream with earthquake activity. Now, that's about 29 kilometers deep here for that 1.6, but still into the Cascadia, but above the Trimmer areas, which sits about 35 to 45 kilometers, a little bit further right and a little bit further deeper into the subduction zone itself. Continue to watch that. A little bit of activity across the Reno area from last night. See if we got anything stirring up this morning. Some 1s and 2s, it looks like, here in a new separate swarm. Just south here of 50. I believe that's Highway 50, right? Oh, no. South of Dayton, outside Carson City area. A little separate swarm. This swarm following the movement here last night. So it looks like a little bit of migration kicking up here around the Reno area. That's a pretty good sign here of some stress up against the Sierra Nevada mountains. And, of course, all that stress and strain comes from the areas along the plate boundary. We're not really seeing too much activity as far as earthquake movement goes here, but doesn't mean we're not seeing any strain building up here across the west coast. We'll keep an eye on that. This area has shown elevated seismic activity here over the past couple months. We've had a couple different swarms up here around Reno, and now we're seeing some little spottier ones showing up around the region. We'll keep an eye on that for sure. Cobb Mountain area, of course, this is the Calpine hydrothermal operations there, creating some earthquakes in their process. Along the Hayward Fault Zone, we've got a couple smaller earthquakes here this morning, a 2.2, a little bit further up north, a 2.2 as well, roughly within about an hour and a half of each other. That's another dangerous fault system here running through a highly populated region. A little bit further south on the Calaveras Fault, 0.9. And the creeping segment here of the San Andreas Fault showing some activity as well. The latest, though, a 2.4 near Pinnacles. The rest of the state, a little spotty as you go through Ridgecrest in Southern California. Looks like it's back into the quiet zone for the most part. The latest earthquake shows a 0.6 down there off the Elsinore Fault. Over here in Los Angeles, 1.5 near MacArthur Park, it looks like. 7.3 kilometers deep. The San Andreas Fault continues to sleep for now. Up here in Yellowstone, outside Yellowstone, we did see a 3.2 coming up yesterday into Edgar, Montana. That did show up there across the park. It's going to be this seismograph station here. We'll go to the full overview. You can see that 3-pointer showing up pretty nicely. Now, I'm starting to think there was some type of earthquake activity trying to stir up here last night around the Yellowstone region. This activity right here did show up across a good portion of these local stations here, including down in the Mary Lake area. See that very small, a little bit smaller noticeable signature on that graph. But we checked the stations here. There was there's really no thunderstorm activity, no rain, but no wind. But we'll keep an eye on that, see if that stirs up again. But aside from that, we've got some activity over here around the east entrance now. Let's go ahead and double check. Whenever I see readings like this, they don't really look like earthquake activity. Earthquake activity is going to be well defined. Spiky, this is kind of a clutter, which makes me think it could be right now some storms firing up out there. Let me go to the windy map and see what we have across the eastern section of the park. Radar and satellite. We'll go to radar here. Really nothing stirring up out there. This is way over there. As far as wind events go, wind gusts, there's a little bit of wind out there today. 30 miles an hour, mostly around the eastern section here of the park. That's possible. That's what we're seeing. Some of these seismograph stations are more sensitive than others when it comes to picking up wind. But we'll keep an eye on that and see how that plays out. Let's see what else we got here for the states. Texas showing some movement outside Odessa, north of Odessa there, west of Midland. Look at that. Got a gold field of oil fields. A gold mine of oil fields, I should say. And of course that is a hot spot of oil fields galore. And of course the whole process involves some wastewater injection, disposal, And as you can see, literally within feet of each other of these oil fields, they're having these earthquakes, 3.6, 2.6, 2.4. And this will continue throughout the years to come and get bigger as that activity is already implanted into the ground, so to speak, into this beautiful plate we live on. Some of us live on it. I guess the majority of us does, unless you're in a portion outside the Bay or Los Angeles, and you're on the Pacific side of the plate boundary. All right, moving on here. Not a whole lot going on through the eastern portion of the country. Puerto Rico area still showing some movement up around the Puerto Rico Trench. We did see one earthquake there in El Salvador yesterday, 4.5. Look at the EMSC model here. Looks like we're seeing a little bit less clutter on the globe today in this area, but still I see a couple newer rings in there, the white color rings indicating some newer activity, but mostly down south here. Looks like that's closer to the Nicaragua or the Costa Rica area with some smaller quakes being reported. South America, not a whole lot showing up here, although on the globe we do have a 4.2 off the coast of Chile showing up there from the EMSC model, and some smaller quakes there deep into the Peru-Chile Trench. That's going to be these rings that are raised off the globe, mostly threes in that little cluster right about here. The South Sandwich Islands showing some movement today as well, 4.7 being reported by the USGS at 56 kilometers deep. The Atlantic Ocean, one earthquake out here in the mid-Atlantic, 4.9 from about 3 o'clock this morning or so. Let's see what else we got here for the region. 4.3. Where's that 4-pointer at? The USGS reporting that? Nope. Let me go over here to the EMSC model real quick here and see what we have going on. Go to the earthquake map because it still doesn't work as far as the linkage goes. When you go to click on this, it basically just takes you to the EMSC model. It used to take you to that event, that earthquake event, but now it just doesn't. Let's see, there's a 2.1. Let's see what we got. I'm looking for that. A little slow though. 4.3 earthquake. It looks like that's just off the coast of let's see. All right. Come on. Up here? 1.7. 2.1. I don't even see it up here now. Oh, there it is. A little bit further south. All right. Near the Norwegian Sea area. That's okay. That's at 4.3 coming in. Looks like just earlier today. A newer quake off the coast there of Norway. That activity being reported by the agency there in Norway. 4.3, little odd earthquake up there. Aside from that, typical movement here across the Mediterranean. It looks like Turkey did see some larger, well, I should say moderate aftershock activity there in the region. Looks like a 4-pointer or 2 coming in to this area. Aside from that, mostly smaller microquakes being reported here across Greece and areas westward. A little bit further activity up in South Africa. It looks like a 3.2 yesterday. Yesterday we had a little bit of activity off the coast there of South Africa. But I am not really seeing that showing up there on the USGS map, of course. There it is on the EMSC model. That's a 3.2. Today it looks like we're getting a little bit further activity, 3.2, closer into South Africa. A little bit of movement working its way away from the plate boundary down here. Of course, that's a divergent boundary, it looks like. At least the separation of the seafloor here. That's what they're showing on the plate direction here. Got the Australia and the Africa plate here. Creating that little separation. We haven't really seen too much earthquake activity out there. I don't believe. Let me double check and see what we got for the last 30 days in this area. Not a whole lot going on through the southwest Indian Ridge, divergent boundary. We had a little bit of activity stirring up down here, but nothing large. 4.7 earlier this month, and also a little bit further east, 5.0 back in June. But looks like we get a little activity working its way up north into the Africa region. All right, Java Trench, of course, that was a hot spot of activity yesterday. Look at this one quake. This is a 4.4 that's from yesterday. Did I not notice that last night? That's kind of off the plate boundary back before it. There's 3.9 as well, but this was lit up pretty good yesterday along this region. We'll definitely continue to watch that. These earthquakes that happened prior to the plate boundary, prior to the subduction zone, are concerning, because that makes me think that there's some good strain starting to build up in that area. But a look at the globe here today, we can see where the clustering's going on across the Indonesia area. Also, I would say New Zealand's definitely put itself up there on the map here today. Quite a few 4s and 3s kicking up there across the New Zealand area. So let's go check it out. Of course, nothing to the USGS, nothing being reported at least. So we're going to go to the GeoNet servers that monitor and send out the reports there for the folks in New Zealand. All right, these are the felt reports. Looks like that 3.4 coming in outside the Milford Sound area, South Island. There was a 4.2 in there as well from yesterday. I think 3.1 2 days ago. Let me go to the all magnitudes here. 3.0 2 minutes ago. A couple other smaller quakes. Here's a deleted event. 2.8 off the north coast here in that circle. 2.3, 4.1. That's north of the North Island. Looks like around Kermadec Trench. 3.1 2 hours ago. Definitely looks like it's upticked there on the globe. Let's check out the drums here. This kind of gives me a good indicator of what's going on. The earthquake 3D drum the earthquake 3D globe can throw up a lot of quakes, make it look cluttered. But this here, you can kind of redefine where the activity is taking place. Definitely looks like there was a handful of activity here across South Island over the past 24 hours, as you can see listed up there. That's going to be, I believe that's going to be that 4-pointer. It says last night on their on their chart, but last night their night, right? 4.2. All right, so we'll continue to watch that New Zealand area. Definitely kind of working its way down there. We'll continue to watch for some maybe some larger scale activity. Today, the quiet zones look to be the Mariana Trench and the Izu Trench up here across the Western Pacific, and of course the Kuril Kamchatka Trench. All right, anything else out here? Let's see, California, like I say, just a little bit of activity lighting up. All right, we'll check out space weather, see what's going on, and then get my Saturday here. It's already hot out. It's 100 degrees already at noontime here. It's supposed to be 110, folks. Can you believe that? It's just been hot like this for a little while now. All right, space weather activity. Haven't really seen too much overnight following the moderate M flare from yesterday. Had a couple C flares kicking up, but let's see what we got here on the magnetogram that kind of gives us a good indicator of the complex structure that maybe they harbor. And a couple of these have degraded massively overnight. These 3 sunspots, even though this one's pretty big and I can probably spot it out with my solar lens on my camera, it's not very complex. You got a large distance in between these cores. Now this area right here even has weakened slightly in terms of the complexity of the sunspot magnetic field. That's the one that produced the M flare here last night or yesterday. Literally, these things have just degraded overnight. That's not a good sign for solar weather uptick. We'll definitely continue to watch it, though. If anyone were to produce any type of flaring, I think this area still might harbor a little potential, but like I say, we'll keep an eye on it. Flare threat still shows 99% chance for a C flare. M flare at 45. X flare around 5% chance, and not really seeing anything major going on for the auroras right now. There's our flare from yesterday. That's right, that M flare was actually up on the northwestern quadrant up here. We did have another smaller flare that peaked out from this area, but that's going to be those two sunspots. 3372 up here and 3373. We'll watch these regions. Nothing major going on as far as the auroras go, folks. Weather outlook today. Slight risk, less than 2% chance for tornadoes, so it looks like maybe a little bit of some large hail out there in western Kansas. Beautiful state of Kansas, and some wind events going on. So heads up, you've got your car out there. Trying to get it washed from the rain. Well, I would definitely be alert there for some large hail out there around Garden City, Hays, Kansas. Alrighty, let's see here. We'll take a look at this weather model. I've been kind of watching this hurricane that could be potentially coming into the Gulf here towards the 1st of August. Let's go ahead and see what's being reported here from the weather models. As we something's going on with this thing. That was weird. This thing's been freezing up lately. Not my computer, but whenever I visit this site, what would run this? Is this a Java-based program? I don't know, but I have to check that out. All right, let's get back into the hurricane that I see. That's kind of weird. All right, either way, it looks like that hurricane has disappeared. Remember a couple models back, we had noticed a hurricane coming in here to the Gulf and hitting Louisiana head on. That has since changed. That just goes to show you the inconsistencies with these weather models here. But I do like to check them because they do give a, somewhat of an indicator of what could be coming up. Hurricanes are unpredictable. Very unpredictable. As far as any pressure systems going on out here, high pressure, low pressure, we're cooking out here along the west coast, of course, right about here. Today's the 22nd. That's yesterday, so you can see the high pressure building up here along the west coast. That's going to get slightly budged there to the east, and I kind of like this. It looks like we're going to be getting a little bit of cooler weather coming up for the west coast. Not cooler, we're talking about probably upper 90s. The Pacific Northwest, much cooler, but I would rather have these neutral lines over us than the high pressure ridging, which indicates a heat dome. So it looks like that heat's going to build for you folks over there in the east, bringing up some warmer temperatures. And, at least way out into the first week of August, kind of shows a massive ridging here over the Four Corners region. It's been a crazy year. It's been awfully crazy in terms of the variance in weather out here. We're still looking at a El Nino pattern. This is the map from June, right? Notice the water temperatures here. Sea surface water temperatures warmer than average. That's an indicator of an El Nino. Now this is rather interesting up here as well. We're getting some cooler water temperatures up here off the west coast with some warming big time out into the Pacific. Now, uncertain on if this is going to be a strong pattern compared to 1997-98 winter. I remember that. That was quite the event. Also 2015-2016. We got a lot of rainfall from this El Nino setup during those years. The difference, though, in 1997-98 was we had cooler water out here in the Pacific with warmer environment over here. Similar to this, a little bit deeper in the warmth, but this is vice versa here. This is flopped a little bit, so I'm not for sure how that's going to affect the weather come winter time. We'll have to definitely keep an eye on this. Either way, 90% chance that this event will last through the northern hemisphere winter, but only a 20% chance that it will match the strength of these two very large El Nino events back in those years. So definitely has in effect there on the weather along the West Coast and, of course, other areas across the country as well. So definitely see how this plays out. I'm kind of looking forward to it. If it is a strong El Nino event, hoping for another wet winter out here along the West Coast. All right, folks, have a good one out there. Please stay safe. Enjoy your Saturday. I might fire up the barbecue today. I don't know. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. I don't really plan barbecues. I have an idea that pops in my head, and I think, let's go to the store. And then the barbecue begins. Have a good one, folks. We'll catch you guys back here a little bit later tonight with the Saturday night update. Take care and stay cool. Peace out.